more politics now, though, because this made the front page of the FT this morning.
Yes, the paper claims that Mr Farage has told donors he would do a deal with the Tories in order to help his party win the next general election.
Well, Farage has categorically denied this. He took to Twitter and posted a false story in the FT tonight, claims Reform would do a deal with the Tories. After 14 years of dishonesty and lies, they should never be forgiven. The idea I'd work with them is ludicrous.
However, could or should the Tories and Reform need to join forces? We're joined now by Dan Barker, a Reform UK board member. Now, Dan, I'm sure you're just about to tell me that under no circumstances would Reform and the Tories ever do any kind of deal, but at the moment, yes, Reform is far ahead in the polls. Doesn't look like there'd be much benefit in them joining up with the Tories. We do know that smaller parties suffer in the first-past-the-post system. And as we get close to election, it does look as though the Tories are beginning to build a little bit of momentum. If we got to the point just before an election where it looked very much as though the right-wing vote would be split between Reform and the Tories and Labour would get in, surely at that point you would do a deal with the Tories.
Well, thanks for having me on. No, absolutely not. I mean, there's more chance of us doing a deal with your party or the Green Party than there is with the Tories. I mean, whatever you might think about, a little bit of improvement with some of Kemi's rhetoric at the dispatch box, no one trusts the Tories. And when it comes to picking the next government, they have not forgotten about the last 14 years of failure. All the problems that we have now under Labour, the majority of those started under the Tories, and Labour are making them worse. So I don't think the Tories are going to be making a comeback anytime soon, and Reform do not need them.
Dan, of course, at your party conference earlier this year, there was a man called Preston Manning who gave a keynote address. Now, he founded the Reform Party of Canada, which was almost the inspiration for Nigel Farage naming this party in this country Reform. Reform Party of Canada was very, very successful. I mean, for 3 general elections, it grew its numbers of seats, it became the official opposition in Canada, and it squeezed the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, as it was then, out of the picture to a large extent. But it never won an election, and it took almost 20 years for eventually the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada and the Reform Party of Canada to dissolve themselves and form what became the Conservative Party of Canada, which then won the 2005 or 2006 election, if I remember correctly. They didn't get into power until they started working together, but it took several general elections and several left-wing victories for that to eventually happen.
Well, under normal circumstances, I would agree to go from 5 MPs to 350 would be extraordinary. But we are in extraordinary times. The disillusionment of the population with the 2 main parties is palpable. You can see it in the polling, you can see it in the feedback, in the focus groups, and I think we will see something extraordinary at the next election. I have no doubt that Reform will form the next government.
I know, personally, right-wing voters who would really like to see a coalition between the Conservatives and Reform. They think that Reform has the sort of bullish approach on immigration that they want, but they think the Conservatives are more sort of sensible on the economy. And fundamentally, they think that although there might be some animosity between the parties on a personal level, there isn't that much between them on policy. Don't you think what you're saying could be a case of ego getting in the way of what's important for the country?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at the Tories, whatever the sort of the spokespeople might say and the leader, it's the One Nation Tory group that dominate them, and they are a party of liberals. They are more akin to the centre-left and the Liberal Democrats than anything on the right of politics. And they're the ones that brought in all the net zero, all the mass immigration, and all the woke. If the attacks on freedom of speech began under the Tories, it's getting worse, it's getting accelerated under Labour, you cannot lose sight of that. They cannot be trusted to run the government. They cannot be trusted to be in coalition with either.
Looking at what Nigel Farage has said overnight, he's saying that the Conservative Party will cease to be a national party, in May. Right. And I can only take that to mean that he's looking at the Scottish and Welsh elections in particular. How well do you think Reform will do in those 2 particular parts of the United Kingdom?
Well, I think that if you look at the Caerphilly by-election, they got the Tories. I know it's a safe Labour seat historically, but they got 670 votes in that. I mean, they're not even, they weren't there at all. That's pathetic in the general election. I don't think anyone in Wales is looking for the Tories. They're looking at Reform as an alternative to Plaid Cymru and Labour. And again, in Scotland, I know that there's a lot of appetite for Reform up there. And we hope and expect to do well in both of the devolved nations.
Well, thank you very much, Dan Barker, Reform UK board member. I'll be very interested to see what does happen as we get closer to the election. They're denying it at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. And I hope we'll have Dan back on to talk about that at a later stage.
Absolutely. It's going to be fascinating in the run-up to those May elections.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Any talk of a coalition or a pact is extremely unrealistic and unlikely to happen. What may happen is that the electorate will behave as if there is a pact. If their primary objective is to get rid of Labour, they'll vote for Conservatives in the many seats which we are best placed to win, and perhaps for Reform in some of the seats where they're best placed to win. That's exactly what happened at the last election. People wanted to get rid of the Tories. They'd have voted for Labour where they thought Labour would win, Lib Dems where they thought Lib Dems would win, and the parties, of course, concentrate in the seats they'll win. So it may happen in that way, but there won't be a formal pact, I'm pretty sure, nor should there be, because the Tories are basically a potential government, and Farage, and I sort of quite like him as a person, is just a one-man band and a one-club golfer. And as we get nearer the election, it'll be the range of policies, particularly about the economy, where Kemi is increasingly showing her strengths that matter, and to muddy the waters by some kind of pact or even talking about pacts wouldn't help.
Is the difficulty here that unlike with the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party at the last election, where it was really blooming clear that if you lived in a big southern rural seat, your opposition to the Tories was the Lib Dems. If you lived up in the Red Wall, your opposition to the Tories was the Labour Party. When it comes to Reform and the Tories, it's so difficult to work out who is the actual opposition. Are we going by the last general election when Reform was a lot smaller than it is today? Are we going by the most recent local election results where Reform jumped ahead, sometimes leapfrogged other parties in various parts of the country? Are we going by the polls today? I mean, pick your date in time and you'll find a completely different challenger in completely different parts of the country.
We'll take the most recent evidence, I suppose. We should never underestimate the intelligence of the electorate. The British electorate are very sensible in aggregate, even if individuals make funny choices, but they cancel out. We'll have lots of local election results by then. At the last election, my old seat was split in two, so people had no overall idea of what the outcome would be in the southern half and the northern half, because they could see who was ahead in local government and who was putting most effort in putting leaflets through their doors. So in one half they voted Lib Dem, and in the other half they voted Labour to get rid of the Tories, sadly, because we had a very good Conservative MPs there. But obviously, when I was there, I got nearly 60% of the vote. So, and I hope we'll go back to that. But people will make up their own minds, and I hope they'll just back the Tories if they've got any doubts as to what to do.
You talk about the animosity between the Conservatives and Reform, and you talk about, in your eyes, Nigel Farage being a bit of a one-man band, a joke figure. Those are all personal differences between the two parties. On actual policy, increasingly, on immigration, for example, it doesn't look like there's actually very much difference between the two parties. Don't you think the electorate might right-wing voters might want some sort of coalition between the two?
I certainly didn't, I hope, indicate any animosity. I certainly haven't got any animosity either towards Reform as a party or still less to Reform voters.
Sorry, not you
yes,
personally.
Reform now have a policy on immigration which is much the same as I proposed in a pamphlet called Too Much of a Good Thing in the year 2005. But they are a one-club golfer. And as we get nearer the next election, it'll be a range of issues where the Conservatives have naturally a range of strengths. And they've got people with experience. They will have ditched the weaknesses that they showed in the past in some of those areas. And I think we'll find them steadily, well, nothing's ever steady, nothing goes in a straight line, but they will be increasing their position, and it will look much more like Conservatives, the natural alternative to Labour, Reform having done their job in battering both parties, but much less prominent.